Okay, I think we can get started now. First of all, thanks for joining. My name is Daniel Alarcon. I'm the Technical Support Manager of FileCloud, and I'll be going over some of the basics of administrating FileCloud and also how those things looks on the user side for future reference. This is the agenda that we're going to be covering: creating users, groups, policies, team folders, network folders, settings, some basics on audit records, and just mentioning and just taking a quick look about the web UI, the Drive app, Sync, and mobile app. Okay. For for this demo, I already have a FileCloud server installed. You can use most of these features on a FileCloud server or a FileCloud Online option. The only thing that you don't have on FileCloud Online is the network folders. So keep that in mind in case you're wondering why is it not showing up for you. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so in general, this you have your URL for your web UI. Okay, and regular you will see this kind of URL, right? You have your FileCloud server, and you will see this word here that is called core. That is going to be going to the user UI. If you just go the same URL and you have a shortcut that it just goes as, and you say admin, it will go directly into your admin UI. And we're going to start there. So let's log in. Okay. Once you log in, you will see the general dashboard. What's important here on the general dashboard, you will see some basic statistics on file usage, on the system usage itself, and you can see also which is your current version, what is the latest version, if there's any, and if there are updates. I have a minor update available for me, but we're covering it, the demo with 19.3. What is your license? When does it expire? And how many users are you actually using on your license. Based on the files, what are the most files that are being used on your system, right? The type of files. Let's say you have a design company, you will see maybe more DWG files here, but what's basically covering most of your space? Which users have most of the, how is the distribution of your files? In this case, I just have files on a user called Daniel and a company user that it's called a company that has all the other data. And we'll get to see why is this called company and where is it holding off, and how much quota is assigned to Daniel and how much quota is assigned to company and how much are they using of those two. Okay, so in general, we have here our user section. Our users, we have three types of users. We have a full user, a guest user, a limited user, and we can also disable a user. Okay, and we'll see why this is useful. On here, let me just get back to this. Okay, you can share, we can have this information. This information is available on our wiki, but you can see here what is the main differences between these three accounts. In summary, between the full user and the guest user, the main difference is that they don't have any personal storage. Okay, they cannot have a specific amount of space assigned to them. So that's one of the main difference. And the other difference is that they don't have a offline backup on the mobile applications or in the sync application, right? That's actually the only two differences between the full and the guest. And the limited access, they have a more broad differences from the other one. First of all, you can have limited accounts. Okay, you can have as many as you want. This is normally going to be useful for your external users. They don't have personal storage. They don't have access to mobile apps. They don't have access to any of the applications that run on Windows, that being Sync, Drive, or any of the other applications. You cannot have limited accounts added to groups or use SSO in that, for that matter. You cannot use two-factor authentication. And you cannot have the file and folder comments or automation app available there. Okay, so that's are the main those are the main differences here. Going back here or to our users here, if we create a user, we're going to add another one. Let's call it test user. You can see here that we can select, okay, what type of user is this, full, guest, or limited, and what type of authentication. FileCloud can also be integrated into your current Active Directory server. You can have you can integrate it to a regular Active Directory, or you can, instead of dealing with this, you can just connect it to your SSO provider. It could be Azure AD, Okta, or whichever provider you have. We support most of them because we can support anything that is under simple SAML protocol. And we can iterate to any of those. So the account creation, all these steps can be avoided. The accounts can be created on the fly when anyone is trying to log in on the front end, as long as they have permissions or they are part of a group that you're going to allow to use FileCloud with them. Then we're going to create a full user. And with an email account. Okay, we're not going to send him email because that doesn't exist. And just by that, we just created an account. Now, if we go back and check this account, you will see that it has a few information here that it's useful. You can see that it has a total quota of 2 gigabytes, right? You can set this on a different basis based on policies. So we're going to take a look at that in just a moment, but you can set that any users that belong to a specific policy group are going to have a specific size. You can even set 0, so you're not going to give them any network, any folder access. Or if you want to give a much higher space, 10 gigabytes, 50 gigabytes, it doesn't matter. It's managed via policies. Anything that belongs to those groups are going to get that storage available. You can see here that you have the information that you've already put in. You can set that the account expires on a specific date. Let's say it's an account for an external user, a customer. You can set it to be expire once the project is finished, maybe in 3 months. You can already set that here, so you don't have to worry about managing or administrating those accounts in the future. Or you can also set when does the password expire, right? Then they will have to change the password once they log in again. You can disable sync individually by user. So even if you give access to all these full accounts and you want specific users not to have sync available on their computers or in their mobile devices, because you don't want the files to be sitting on their machines, you can disable that manually here. You can disable in general from network folders or in general for all storage types, okay? And now that we mentioned storage types, we're going to be checking a little bit about what we mean by storage types. If we go into the web UI that the user is going to get access, these are the options that you're going to see, and you're going to look at them differentiated by the icon, specifically the folder icon. This is their personal storage. This is, if you check here, it says that it's using 1.25 megabytes of 2 gigabytes. These are their personal storage for them, right? Every specific user can have this, and this is only available for them at any time. And you have other 2 options. In case of course of FileCloud Online, you have only the other option, which is team folders. And in the team folders, it's basically a share folder that you're going to be giving access to individual users if you want to. So let's say you have 100 users, you can give a specific folders to specific users, and that's going to be managed on a team folder section. So this team folder, it's actually an account. And remember we mentioned about the user company. This is where you can see what this user account, which is, it doesn't have any limitations. is going to be having folders that it's sharing between other users. And you can have as many team folders accounts that you want, and you can share any specific of those folders with different users or groups. So you can have any of your users actually belonging to specific groups. Right now, I don't have anyone added to this, but I can just come here and edit the group, manage the members. I can say, okay, this user is going to belong to the group engineering. And there we have it. Now it has one user account and engineering, and Daniel has access to engineering group. Again, if you actually connect your Active Directory to FileCloud and you already have all those groups and you want them to be in sync with FileCloud, you can also do something here that it's called, you can import the groups, or you can also set it, let's say your group, it's also called engineering on Active Directory. And you set this automatic sync and remove members. This means that everything, every 24 hours, FileCloud is going to go and sync with those groups and add any new members that you add to the group, or remove any new members. Or if you don't want to remove them, you just want to disable them, you can just click here on disable, and it will synchronize with your Active Directory. Okay. Okay, so going back to the team folders. Right now I have this test folder that I'm sharing with everyone, because there's also a group called everyone that is created by default, but I can also restrict it and say, okay, I want it to be with engineering, and I want to remove this group called everyone. So I just click here and it will remove it. And I'm going to allow engineering group to have access to this. There is no update or save button. That's something that you want to keep in mind. As long as I clicked on here, that's already taking place, and there's no need to refresh the web UI on this side. And we go back here. We can see here we still have access to the team folder because we're logging as the user Daniel, but we can also go back and create a new folder. Let's call this folder accounting. Okay, right now it's not shared with anyone. So if I go back here and just refresh team folders, we're not going to get access to that folder. So you can see that you can actually create as many folders as you want and have them available for different teams that you want them to have access to this. And the third is a storage option that we have here is network folders. And this is only available for FileCloud installations on premise. These network folders are going to have everything that you can connect to actual network folders on in your LAN, or you can have individual disks or folders on the server where your FileCloud server is sitting connected here. So if you can check, you can see here we have 3 different ones, and you can see there's a special one here. And this is, I call this user files. It has the default permissions and it has a percentage, user ID percentage here. What is this? This is a smart mount folder that we added on FileCloud. And by doing the percentage user ID percentage, what we're actually doing is we have a folder here in our D volume, and that it's called users. And you can see here that the folder inside is called Daniel. So what happens here, if I go to the front end, and if I go to the network folders, you will see that I have a access to one that it's called user files. But once I click on the user files, it will show me the content that actually has my user folder. So it will outsmart this and just say, okay, this user ID matches this user ID, so I'm going to show him the content. I'm not going to get access to see any content from any other user. So let's say we have a user called here test. I'm not going to be able to see anything from that. Or if we can have something here like it's called John, we're not going to see the content. John is going to be able to get his content, and I'm going to be able to get my content from a network folder, without having to select it or choose it. And we also have another one which this doesn't have any specifics. So if we go back here and say, okay, what is this company file? Okay, this one is just a regular. It's not a smart mount. I'm just going to have everything that it's on company-wide with permission default. If you connect it using your Active Directory, you can use your NTFS, and we're going to inherit everything that you have on that folder. So if you actually have a folder and you're using NTFS permissions with only very specific permissions, like only read-only permissions or read and write or something like that, specified on NTFS, you're going to be able to inherit that into FileCloud, and we're going to do this on access. So whenever I access that folder, I'm going to get permissions or not. So that's something important that you want to do. And by default, this is going to be available to sync, but you can also disable syncing these network folders. So let's say you have a huge network folder of 2 terabytes and you don't want the users to be synchronizing that, you can just disable it and they will have only access via the web UI or via the FileCloud Drive app. Okay, so far here, we have mentioned creating users, creating groups, policies, team folders, network folders. What is this about? And I'm going to be mentioning some settings that you want to go out. And let's here and go to settings. And remember, we're talking about here about the policies. The global default policy is the one that's created once you actually install FileCloud, and you can see here that it's only going to give them 2 gigabytes of available storage. But we can also do something here. We're going to copy this global policy, and we're going to create a new one, a default 20 gigabytes. Okay, so if I go here, I'm going to say I don't want this. I want this on gigabytes. So I'm going to have all the users that belong to this group to have 20 gigabytes available. Okay, and I can say here which ones I actually want here. So let's bring here Daniel. So now Daniel has access to this group policy, and it's going to have available 20 gigabytes of space. But besides giving this information, you're going to have other things here. You can enable privacy settings. You can store deleted files, yes or no. So you can control all of these on a policy group level. So not everyone has to have all the files stored that are deleted. And you can have other information like a 2-factor authentication. You can enable or disable that by a policy group. And you have other options. You can have some very powerful users that you want them to be able to send invitations to new users when they create a share, create accounts when they create a share, enable code-based device authentication, all of this information, and also information requiring by the applications. If you're going to require a passcode, you want to disable mobile access to this, to anyone that belongs to these groups. And device configuration and notifications. Device configuration is if you have a group of users that you want to, and they're going to install, you're going to install sync on, let's say, a total of 10 users. Those 10 users that belong to this policy, you can have very specific settings sent to the applications. So you can create in an XML here that you're going to send those specific settings, and once they log in, they're going to be pushed to the client application. And you can disable notifications per group, right? So you can, if you don't want them to be getting notifications in case they are updating files or they are adding or removing files or someone that they share, you can do that all by a group. It doesn't have to be for everyone. You can disable the downloads, the delete email notifications. This will prevent FileCloud from sending all those emails to the users. and not annoying specific groups of people. Okay. Now, a few things that you want to make sure once you install FileCloud is you have some very basic settings that you want to take care of. First of all is your service name, your server URL. That's an important thing. You want to see if you want to allow sync, if you want to allow web tab, which is disabled by default. If you want to allow all devices to log in case you install FileCloud 19.3, but you don't want to allow anyone using, let's say, some previous version of FileCloud you have, like 18.2 or 19.1, you can disable this and they force the users to update so they can get access to the latest features. You can have the user portal and the admin portal on different languages. So that's important also here that and this can also be changed on the user level. It doesn't have to be the same for everyone. I can go here as a user in settings and I can say, okay, I want my UI to be shown in a different way. Let's go back here. So if I want this to be shown in Spanish, it will refresh. And now the UI only for me, it's going to be shown in Spanish, or I can switch it back to English. Same goes as the date and time format. You can see here that I can switch that for me, and I can see that on what I'm used to seeing. It doesn't have to be the same for everyone, especially if you have people in Europe that use the month and date, and in US that use the date and month. Those kind of things that can be shown and doesn't have to be equally for everyone. Other things that you want here is, as I mentioned, right now we have managed storage and network folders because we have an on-prem installation. And we can have here, how do you want these network shares to be shown? So we can actually change that. We can just say it network folders instead of network shares. And if I go back here, I now see network folders. That's one of the previous configuration that we changed. And in managed storage, you have a few things here that you want to have in mind. As you can see, everything that we're saving on my files and team folders is going to go to managed storage, and it's going to go to this location. So if I go to this location, you will see that files are not actually saved the same way as you see them. You're going to see that every file that we create is going to be a .dat file. And it's not going to be the actual file. This is because we have FileCloud in general is a solution that is going to be storing all the path and all the file information in a database. Is not going to have it here. It's going to add another protection and another layer of not only security, but performance-wise. So every time we access our files in here, if I go to my files and I see, okay, I want to check this, all that information is being pulled directly from FileCloud server. You can see here we have testing. And it makes things much more faster and much more in a performance-wise better, because all the files, as you can see here, don't have any path, right? Don't have any path because all the path information, if I create a new folder on FileCloud, let's create a new folder. This folder. All this information is being stored in the database. Once I created this folder, that nothing was created here on managed storage because there is no file. Once I move a file here, that file is going to be going to your managed storage. And the other place that we were mentioning is that you actually have access to network share. So this is transparent. Whatever I have here is what the user is actually seeing on screen. So if I go back here and go to network folders and go to my users, I'm going to see exactly the same thing here as I have on the network folder. Okay. Now, besides these settings that we've been covering, there's also some, there are other things like if you want to integrate it with your Active Directory, you have that option. If you want to change your admin settings, you can change that here. This is database information from the Mongo database. If you are running on a high availability system, you can see that the MongoDB, instead of connecting to one server, is going to be connecting to multiple ones. You can change anything regarding your email server. So if you have Office 365 or any SMTP access to your email server, you can change that to your default settings. We can have an endpoint backup. What does this mean is that if you have FileCloud Sync installed on the client or the mobile apps, you can have the users backup files from their device without them going to my files. That means if I back up, let's say I'm taking some pictures on my mobile phone and I want them to be automatically sync into FileCloud, we can enable the endpoint backup and have that available on the server immediately after it was taken. So that's something we will probably cover on a future webinar, but something that you want to keep in mind that you can back up here, or you can also do the same on the Sync app. If you have Sync installed on a Mac or in a Windows computer, you can you can actually configure Sync to go and pick specific folders from the computer that don't actually have to be on your FileCloud folder, and make those actually go into the backup folder. That's a one-way backup. That's something you want to keep in mind. So anything that you do in your computer will be sync up to FileCloud. But if you change those files, those are not going to be synced down. If you change the files on the web UI, so something to keep that in mind. Your license information, and you have the policies that we just mentioned before. If you integrate with SSO, if you enable content search, we can install a component here and enable it that is going to allow, whenever I click on search here, to not only search for the file names, but also search what's inside of those files. And it's going to be indexing and creating a database on Solr. We use Solr for that. So it's possible for us to just search by content and say, okay, I want anything that has a specific wording to be shown. We have our web edit option. If you have Office 365, you can enable that here with us or with your Office 365 installation or access that you have individually for your company. We have the team folder section where we actually, this is where we name the user company. And you can see here that it's actually very similar to an account. Big difference here is that it doesn't going to have any limitation on size. And you have the third-party integrations. You can integrate with an antivirus. You can install one directly from the server, like ClamAB, or you can connect to any ICAP protocol antivirus that you have on your company, and we can send files for scanning, and once we get the approval, we're going to actually store it or not. You can integrate with Salesforce. You can integrate with SIEM protocol. And now that we get here, we're going to see what's actually, what are we going to be sending here? If we go here on your left, and we have this that it's called audit, you can see that anything that's going on in FileCloud is being logged in our database. And these can also be sent to your SIEM server that's holding all your audits. Whatever is happening here on FileCloud is going to be sent over there, like logins, like file, like uploads, downloads. It's also going to have all that information that we have here. We can send it over. And the reason for that is, besides, if you have a central location for all your platforms and you want that information to be logged, other thing that you want to be sure is that these audit record, everything is going to be saved. We're not automatically cleaning it right now. And after a few months, this can become very large and it's going to give you some trouble. We can set some configuration to change this and, let's say, clean it every 15 days, 30 days, and export it. But if you have that integration with your SIM, you don't have to worry about that in general. And we can enable reCAPTCHA integration. This is because when you are sharing a file publicly and they make at least 3 attempts, the last attempt is going to say, okay, please enter a CAPTCHA. The idea is just to block or not allow any robot or any hackering into this before just showing a CAPTCHA integration. And now that we mentioned the shares, the main goal, I think one of the main features for me, for FileCloud, is our sharing capability. And the idea is that anything that you have here, you have control on the admin UI, what can be shared and what can't be shared. And also how can it be shared. If I want to share this folder, okay, first of all, I can create a public share just like that. It will share this. If I share this URL, someone can have access to this folder to download without anything else being done. But we have all these advanced options that you want to take a look at. So as you can see here, first, the default way of sharing a file is to view and download, but you can actually allow upload as well. You can say that instead of just sharing this and having access to all those users, you can share and have a password. So whenever they get to this URL, they have to enter a password to get in. Or you can say, okay, I want someone specific to have access. And that specific user can be my limited account. I can say I can give them access to view, download, upload, share, or any of those details. That's something that you want to be doing, or you want to share by a group. Let's say we want to share internally to the group engineering. Okay, and which type of permissions you want those on those shares. So as you can see here, it's not only sharing externally, it's also sharing internally. And you have all these configurations that you can take a look at, and you can expire the share. Let's say I'm sharing this to a customer, and I don't want that share to be there forever. I want it to expire on a specific date. I can set that. And if I'm asking the customer, okay, please share me the files, and I don't want them to go over, I don't know, 50 megabytes, I can enter a limit here. And if once the user logs in, I'm going to get email notifications on any action they do on this share, right? I don't have to be guessing or just wondering when the user actually uploads a file that I ask. I'm going to get an email notification once they logged in and once they upload or download a file. So you're going to be notified on every single action that is happening under these shares that you're creating. So this is a very, very powerful tool that we have a lot of customization going on, and I think it's one of our main features that we offer as a product. That's in general what I wanted to share to you today. I don't know if we have any questions or anything that you want to cover right now. Okay. Okay, perfect. So I appreciate your time today. We're going to be covering any other topics on a future webinar. I really appreciate your joining today. And let me just see, I see someone asking here. Jesse, yes, we do have Office 365 integration, and that's a two-side thing, right? We can integrate with your Office 365 email, so you can have all your emails and all information regarding email being sent to Office 365. But we can also offer Office 365 web edit integration. How to keep LDAP always synchronized. Okay. Yeah, Jesse, I thought about that. It's actually, we can integrate with an Office 365, and we can, instead of just previewing here files with our preview tool, you can have in Office 365. We can show that in a later session, and we can have a web edit button here that is going to be using your Office 365 business account. Okay. Now on LDAP, a quick question, Abdul. What do you mean on keeping LDAP always synchronized? Are you talking about the user counts, user groups? Yes, okay. So let's say you add more user accounts. Once you integrate with Active Directory, if I go here, let me show you here. If I log out, I don't have an AD connector here, but we can cover that in another session. If we have Active Directory and I enter a new account, let's say you added a new account called John Doe, and he enters his Active Directory password and logs in, but that account doesn't exist here on the user, that account is going to be created automatically, unless you do something like this. If we go to authentication, we go to Active Directory, and we say, okay, I want to allow anyone on my Active Directory to log in here and have access to FileCloud automatically. Instead of me having to add those files manually, I can have them done automatically. And I can say, okay, I want to limit, because if I have a company with 500 users, I probably didn't purchase a 500 user FileCloud installation. So I probably just purchased like 200 because I'm rolling it up slowly, and I can create an Active Directory group that it's called FileCloud. So anyone on Active Directory that it's also part of a group in Active Directory called FileCloud, it's going to create those accounts automatically. And it doesn't require any admin intervention. It will happen just on the fly, and it will also manage and work in this way regarding policies. So you can see here that you have one default policy in general, right? We have one default policy. That default policy is going to be applied for those Active Directory accounts that are created automatically. So you can set any specific the policy that you want and make that the one that it's going to be used default for those AD users. Okay, and same goes as groups, right? If you want, you don't have to be coming back here to FileCloud and adding or removing groups in general. So you probably want to do what we were mentioning before, right? We can have a group called, and this is something regular, right? We can say, okay, this is the AD sales group. And if we go to the AD sales group, we can see here that we can manage the members, and we have an Active Directory group import, and probably the group is going to be called the same, and we can sync it here. So besides having people be added automatically when they log in, you can automatically sync that group every 24 hours. So any users that are new that are added to AD sales, even if they're not part of FileCloud, if they are now part of Active Directory sales group, those accounts are going to be created automatically here on FileCloud. And if they're removed from here, you can also do something like remove the accounts from Active Directory, or disable the accounts from FileCloud once that import happens, once it syncs with your AD group back on your AD server. That clears the question, Abdul? Okay. Perfect. Okay, I think that's all we have for now. If there's anything else, you can always reach us back at support, right? So if you need any help, you can visit any of our documentation links, send an email to support to have any questions for us, view the tutorials that we have. So thank you very much for your assistance today, and we'll catch up on the next time. Thanks everyone for coming. Bye.